3 years is long enough for a relationship to build a rhythm. And ours had a steady beat of routines and rituals that made it feel like we were moving forward. We weren't perfect, but we weren't volatile either. We argued sometimes about time, space, parenting styles, money, but we always circled back to forgiveness. We shared responsibilities, late-night laughs, Sunday breakfasts, and enough small, quiet moments to make everything else feel manageable. Her daughter from a previous relationship was part of that life too, and I grew to care for her like my own. I wasn't her dad, but I tried to show up like one. I'd help with homework, go to parent-teacher nights, pick her up from aftercare when her mom worked late. It wasn't asked of me. I wanted to. She and I had plans. Loose ones, unspoken maybe, but real enough. We talked about getting a bigger place someday, maybe a dog, maybe even another kid. Though I had a daughter from a previous relationship and had made the decision to get a vasectomy after she was born. We weren't flashy or overly romantic. We were just solid. Or so I thought. At some point, the temperature started changing, like a room slowly cooling without you noticing until your hands are stiff and you don't know when it started. She got quiet, distant in ways I couldn't quite place. She was on her phone more, always turning the screen when I got close. When I'd ask what was going on, she'd snap, defensive, irritated, like I was accusing her of something when I was just trying to understand. She started coming home later. Some nights she'd say she was tired and go straight to bed without a word. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was work, maybe she was stressed, maybe something with her family. Then she started getting sick. Her daughter, innocent and unaware, mentioned casually that her mom was throwing up in the mornings. She says it's just a stomach bug, she told me. I nodded, trying not to let the thought hit too hard. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something inside me whispered louder than logic could reason with. I sent her a text one afternoon, just a simple, "Hey, how's your day?" But it went unanswered. That wasn't out of the ordinary. She wasn't glued to her phone like some people. But then another day passed. And another. Called. No answer. I texted again, softer this time. Did I do something wrong? Yes. I saw the read receipts. She saw the messages. But she never replied. A week passed. No word. No call. No sign of her. I drove by her apartment once, unsure of whether I wanted her to answer the door or not. The lights were off. Her car wasn't there. I told myself I shouldn't push. But it hurt. The silence wasn't just confusing, it was cruel. I felt like I'd been erased. I sent one last message, out of desperation more than anger. She's religious, devout in a quiet, private way, so I said something I thought might reach her heart. I don't know what I did, but even Jesus forgave Judas. She replied that night. Her message was brief, cryptic. God forgives all. There was something else she wrote. I can't even remember what it was now, but I do remember what came after. Don't contact me again. Then, just like that, I was blocked on everything. No explanation. No goodbye. Just gone. It wasn't just a breakup. It was like she took a scalpel and carved herself out of my life without anesthetic. I stared at our old messages, our photos, the little reminders of our 3 years together that suddenly meant nothing. I couldn't even be angry yet. I was numb. Hello. Confused. What did I miss? What had I done? What had she done? It would be months before I learned the truth. But in that moment, all I knew was that someone I'd trusted, someone I'd built a life with, had vanished without giving me the dignity of understanding why. The days that followed her disappearance were slow, heavy, and filled with conversations I had with myself in the silence. I replayed everything, from our last conversation to her last smile, scanning for some clue I had missed. I blamed myself. Then I didn't. Then I did again. It's a strange thing. Grieving someone who's still alive, who simply chose not to speak your name anymore. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped, thinking maybe it was her with an apology, an explanation, anything. But it never was. She had vanished so thoroughly it felt deliberate. And it was. I just didn't know why. I was still blocked on everything. Social media. Texts. Calls. Nothing got through. I even tried emailing her, but the message bounced back. I messaged her cousin once, someone I was friendly with, and got no response. Everyone around her seemed to be following the same quiet script. Act like I no longer existed. I tried to move forward, at least on the outside. I went to work. I smiled when people talked. I nodded through conversations. But at night, I sat in the dark wondering how love could collapse so completely without warning. And then came the coincidence. I was on shift. I'm a firefighter and paramedic, and we were called to transport a patient to a hospice facility just outside town. I'd been there before. It was clean, quiet, full of polite nurses and flickering overhead lights. As we pulled in, I glanced around, expecting, hoping, not to see her SUV in the parking lot. I didn't. I breathed easier. But fate has a way of working itself in sideways. While we were signing paperwork, one of the hospice nurses recognized me. She smiled, asked about my ex by name. Hit me like a slap. I hesitated. We broke up, I said, trying to keep my voice level. She frowned sympathetically. That's too bad. She was let go recently. Crashed one of the facility vans. I nodded, pretending I knew that already. But then, just as I was about to thank her and leave, she said it. So, are you going to help her with the baby? My heart stopped. What baby? I asked. I already knew the answer. I just didn't want to believe it. She's 5 months pregnant, right? The nurse said, confused now. I assumed it was yours. I stood there frozen, gripping the folder of paperwork, the words bouncing around in my skull but refusing to land. I don't remember what I said next. I think I mumbled something about needing to go. I got back in the rig and stared out the window the whole ride back. My partner didn't say a word. He didn't need to. I think he saw it on my face, that some truth had just opened a wound deeper than fire or bone. The irony was cruel. I couldn't have gotten her pregnant. I'd had a vasectomy years ago after my daughter was born. It wasn't just unlikely. It was impossible. Which meant the ghosting, the silence, the abrupt goodbye. It all made sense now. She hadn't just left me. She'd replaced me. While I was still replaying every word we'd ever said, she had been building a new life in secret. Or trying to. Until it fell apart. I drove home that night in a daze. Walked into my apartment and stared at the chair she used to sit in. My mind kept flashing back to that last message she sent. God forgives all. It wasn't about me. It was about her. A blanket absolution she gave herself before erasing me from her story. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even punch a wall like they do in movies. I just sat down and felt the full weight of what it means to be discarded. Took months to crawl out of that feeling. But the worst part wasn't that she cheated. The worst part was that she made me feel like I was the one who failed her, when all along I was just the placeholder for someone she still wasn't done chasing. Time moved forward, but I didn't feel like I was moving with it. I got better at pretending, better at answering, "How've you been?" with a neutral shrug. The heartbreak hadn't gone away, but I'd stopped expecting answers. That's the thing about abandonment. You don't get closure. You build a life around the hole instead. Focused on work. Took extra shifts. Started exercising again. I even tried dating, though nothing ever made it past a second dinner. They were kind, smart women, but they weren't her. Or maybe, more truthfully, they weren't who I had convinced her to be in my mind. Then came the turning point. I met someone at the hospital, an RN with a warm laugh and gentle sarcasm that didn't demand anything from me. It started slow, just coffee in the break room and occasional shifts together. But over time, I noticed I was looking forward to seeing her. I didn't check my phone obsessively anymore. I didn't flinch every time someone mentioned the word ex. I was healing. Not fully, but honestly. Life was finding a rhythm again. It had been almost a year and a half since everything collapsed. Long enough that I could breathe again. Long enough to forget what her voice sounded like. Then one day, I started receiving texts from a number I didn't recognize. They were short messages at first. Passages about forgiveness, quotes about God and redemption, Bible verses I half remembered from her own lips. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I knew exactly who it was. Some messages were passive, others almost tender. I hope you're well. I still pray for you. Time changes people. I stared at them and said nothing. Silence was the most honest answer I could give. Then, one evening after a 24-hour shift, I walked out to the parking lot to find a note tucked under my windshield wiper. The handwriting stopped me cold. I recognized every loop and slant. It was her. The note was folded carefully. Too carefully. Inside she asked me to meet. Just talk. No expectations. Please, she wrote. I just want to explain. I sat in my truck for nearly an hour staring at that note. I considered it briefly. But my father's words echoed back to me. Words I'd clung to in my darkest hours. If someone can betray you while you're loving them right, they were never meant to stay in your life. So I didn't meet her. I blocked the number. But some ghosts don't leave quietly. 3 days later, I pulled into my driveway after another long shift and saw her standing on the sidewalk in front of my house. Her arms were crossed. Her eyes looked tired, older. I hadn't seen her in almost 2 years. She didn't speak right away. I tried to walk past her without saying anything. She followed me to the porch, calling my name like it still belonged to her. When I turned around, I couldn't keep it in. What the hell do you want? She started crying. Real tears. Not the kind meant to manipulate, but the kind that come when you finally stop pretending everything's fine. She told me everything. How she had reconnected with her ex, the father of her first daughter. How she had started seeing him again while still with me. How she got pregnant and didn't know how to face me with the truth. I didn't mean for it to happen, she said. But he left me again. After everything. He left. She was working a low-paying job, couldn't cover rent, and had 2 daughters to feed. She was drowning. I didn't know how to feel. I'd imagined this conversation 100 times, but none of them had ended with her asking for help. I didn't want her back, but I remembered her oldest daughter, the one who used to call me when she needed help with her math homework. I thought about those 2 girls. Kids always pay the highest price for adult mistakes. I didn't say much. I reached into my wallet and handed her $100. Buy them food, I said. And swallow your pride. Go back to your mother's house. I know you 2 don't get along, but she'll take you in. She sobbed harder, saying I was the only man who ever treated her right. That she was sorry. That she still loved me. I looked at her for a long time. Then I told her. You made your choices. And I made mine. I asked her to leave. And for once she did. When she walked away from my porch that day, crying and holding the money I gave her, something in me finally settled. Not in a triumphant way. There was no victory, no cinematic swelling of music, just a slow, quiet realization that I had nothing more to give her. Whatever love I once had been carved hollow by time and truth. What remained was something harder, clearer. Not hate. Not anger. Just clarity. I had done my part. I had stayed kind. And now I could finally let go. In the days that followed, I thought a lot about what it means to move on. People talk about it like it's a finish line, like you cross it one day and suddenly nothing hurts anymore. But it's not like that. It's 1,000 small decisions. Not texting back. Not rereading old messages. Not standing in the places where the memories feel thickest. It's saying yes to the new, even when you still feel haunted by the old. It's waking up and choosing to keep breathing, not for someone else but for yourself. Focused more on work. Spent time with my daughter. Called my mom more often. And slowly let space grow where pain used to live. The RN I had been seeing, her name was Carla, stuck around. She didn't rush me. She didn't try to fix anything. She just listened. We'd sit on my porch some nights with iced tea or bourbon and talk about everything but the past. She knew, of course. I had told her enough. She never pushed for more. And then one evening out of nowhere she said, "You seem lighter." I didn't answer at first. I wasn't sure how to explain it. But after a moment I said, "I think I stopped bleeding." That's what grief had felt like an invisible wound that never scabbed over. But now I could feel something stronger growing beneath it. Something that could hold weight again. I never heard from my ex again, not directly. I heard through a friend that she had moved back in with her mother and was getting her life together. She'd gotten her teaching license. Was working at an elementary school. I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, pride, indifference. I didn't want her back, but I also didn't want her to fail. That's the thing about loving someone deeply. Even when they hurt you, part of you still hopes they find peace. Just not with you. Carla and I grew closer. It wasn't a dramatic love story. No fireworks or big declarations. It was quiet, steady, earned. She'd hold my hand while we walked the trails behind the fire station. She knew my favorite coffee order before I admitted it. One day my daughter asked if she was my girlfriend, and I said yes without hesitation. Felt right. Felt real. And that terrified me. 'Cause real things can break. But Carla wasn't interested in replacing anyone. She once told me, "I'm not here to fix what someone else broke. I'm just here to show you it's okay to love again." And she meant it. We talked about marriage one night. Nothing serious, just in the way people do when they're lying side by side and the world feels soft. I told her I didn't know if I could ever do it again. She nodded. "That's okay. I just want you to mean it if you do." That night, I slept deeper than I had in years. I realized something. Healing doesn't mean you forget what happened. It means you stop letting it shape what comes next. The house began to feel like home again. I put up pictures, not just of my daughter but of the life I was living now. I let Carla bring over her books. She painted one wall in the kitchen a ridiculous mustard yellow. Hated it. But I let it stay. There's a quiet power in knowing you've made peace with the past. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need a breakdown. I needed to reclaim my own damn story. And now I had. When I saw a picture of my ex on a friend's social feed months later, standing in front of her classroom, smiling beside her daughters, I didn't feel anything sharp. No bitterness. No longing. Just acceptance. We had both survived something. That was enough. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt proud of the man I had become on the other side of all that pain. It had been over 2 years since I'd seen her cry on my porch, holding that crumpled $100 like it was both a handout and a goodbye. In that time, the air around her name had thinned. She became a closed chapter, a memory that no longer hurt to open. But life has a way of checking in on your growth, usually when you least expect it. And for me, it came in the form of a message I never thought I'd read again. Started with a letter, not a text. No number to block. No message preview to swipe away. Just an envelope, handwritten, tucked beneath the wiper blade of my truck one morning after a long shift. I knew the handwriting instantly. Messy, with looping ls and uneven spacing. For a second I thought about tossing it. But curiosity, more than emotion, got the better of me. It wasn't long. Just a page and a half. She apologized again. She said she wasn't writing to rekindle anything, just to say she was sorry. For ghosting me, for not telling the truth, for making me carry the weight of her silence. "I was weak," she wrote. "And I thought if I could just disappear you'd forget. But I've never forgotten you." The last paragraph was different. Less about regret, more about struggle. She was behind on bills again. Rent, utilities, child support for her second daughter had lapsed, and her teaching job wasn't paying enough to cover everything. She ended the letter by asking to meet. Not to talk about us, she promised. Just to talk. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had made my peace. But apparently silence was not the closure she was looking for. A week later, I came home late and found her sitting on the curb outside my apartment complex. I sighed before even stepping out of the truck. She stood when she saw me. There was no anger in her eyes this time, just exhaustion. And something else, hope maybe. Or desperation. "I know I shouldn't be here," she said quickly. But I didn't know who else to ask. I didn't invite her inside. I didn't even ask her to sit down. I leaned against the hood of my truck, arms crossed, jaw tight. "What do you want?" I asked, not cruel, just tired. She told me the truth, or what felt like it. Things had gone downhill again. Her mother was threatening to evict her. Her ex, the one who'd gotten her pregnant, had ghosted once more. "I'm not asking for money," she said. "I'm just asking for 5 minutes. For you to see me as a person again, not a mistake." That line stuck with me. I wanted to tell her that she had been more than a mistake. She had been a lesson, a wound, a moment that reshaped my entire sense of trust. But I also saw the weight she carried, not just for herself but for her daughters. And while I didn't owe her anything, I owed those little girls compassion. So I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I reached into my pocket and gave her what little cash I had. "This is for them," I said. "Not for you." She nodded, eyes glassy. "I understand." I paused, then added, "You need help. But you need to get it from someone who didn't already bleed for you." She cried. Again. Tried to reach for my hand. Pulled it away. "I'm not your safety net," I said. "Not anymore." She tried to say she still cared about me. That I had always been the better man. That maybe if things had gone differently. Cut her off. But they didn't. I pointed to the road. "You walked away, remember? So now keep walking." Left. Quietly this time. No screaming. No second plea. Just the sound of her footsteps shrinking in the night. And I stood there in the calm, knowing I had finally chosen myself. Closure didn't come the way I thought it would. It wasn't a single moment, or a conversation that fixed everything, or a triumphant scene where I walked away stronger with perfect posture and a cleaner heart. Closure came slowly, in the quiet choices I made every day to stop carrying weight that didn't belong to me anymore. It came in the steady rhythm of moving forward without looking back. She never showed up again. Not in person, not in messages, not even in my social media notifications. And the absence didn't feel like rejection. Felt like freedom. She had been the storm. I had survived it. Now all that was left was the rebuilding. And brick by brick I was doing it. Carla and I were still going strong. We'd had our own ups and downs, because every real relationship does. But what made it different was how we handled them. No lies. No ghosting. No betrayal hidden behind soft apologies. Just two people, flawed and honest, choosing each other every day. One night, she found me staring at an old photo I hadn't realized was still tucked into a drawer. My ex, her daughter, me. I hadn't looked at it in over a year. "Do you want to talk about it?" Carla asked. I shook my head. "I think I'm just remembering how far I've come." And I had come far. I was back to doing things I'd forgotten I loved. Hiking, cooking, reading fiction, visiting my daughter's school and being the dad who actually showed up for every play and every parent meeting. I'd even gone on a weekend trip with Carla. A small cabin in the woods, no reception, just us, firewood and stars. I didn't think about the past once while we were there. And when we came back I proposed. Not with a grand gesture. Not with fireworks or a viral video. Just a ring, a promise and a quiet, "Will you keep doing life with me?" And she said yes. I hadn't imagined I'd ever get to that point again, but that's the thing about healing. It sneaks up on you. One day you're trying to make it through the week. The next, you're planning forever with someone who made you believe in second chances. I heard once, through a friend, that my ex was doing okay. She'd gotten a teaching job and was stable. Her kids were healthy. She even joined a church community that helped her stay on track. Felt no jealousy. No anger. Just a strange, distant kind of peace. I didn't need her to hurt. I didn't need karma to even the score. I just needed to be free. And I was. The last time I thought about her in depth, I was sitting on my porch watching the sun dip behind the trees. Carla was inside, humming along to music while folding laundry. My daughter was texting me something about her upcoming volleyball game. And I was right there, fully present, not weighed down by what had been lost but lifted by what I had chosen to keep. I didn't regret helping my ex when she showed up that day. I didn't regret loving her when I did. I didn't even regret the pain. Because all of it had shaped the version of myself I was now. A man who knew how to love better, how to choose better, how to walk away when he needed to. She had been a part of my story. But she wasn't my ending. And that finally was enough.